Hi boys and girls, Mrs. Blackburn here. We are ready for day 4 of our shared reading with our star passage. Let's go ahead and begin. Our learning goal: students will eliminate wrong answer choices to the questions on star passages. Success criteria: I can successfully identify correct answers on the star passage by eliminating wrong answer choices and finding text evidence to support my answers. So we will be working with simple machines and greater things. We will reread the text, identify answers, eliminate wrong answer choices. Okay, let's go ahead. All right, please read along with me. Simple machines and greater things. Simple machines get a lot of work done. They save us a lot of effort and time. An understanding of simple machines provides people with the know-how to build great things. The Great Wall of China, the Egyptian pyramids, and the giant stone heads, known as the Moai on Easter Island, were all constructed with simple tools. Lever. The simple machine reduces the amount of force needed to move an object. Consider this: the longer a handle a lever has, the less force is required to lift a heavy object. Of course, you have to move the lever handle a longer distance. The lever really works by trading force for distance. Wheel and axle. The invention of the wheel made life much easier for ancient workers. Imagine dragging stones that weigh over 2 tons, that's 2,000 pounds, up a hill to build a pyramid. Dragging a heavy load is hard because of friction. The stone's weight presses against the ground, causing resistance to a push or pull. By lifting the weight onto a rolling log, friction is reduced. Making strong wheels that are connected by an axle reduces friction even more. Pushing or pulling a cart mounted on wheels requires far less effort than dragging a heavy load. It's no wonder that the heaviest equipment in the world rolls around on wheels. Inclined plane. Lifting heavy objects like refrigerators requires lots of force. Lifting a 250-pound refrigerator straight up is hard. Wouldn't it be easier to push that same weight up a ramp? Like the lever, a ramp gives us another trade-off. We have to move a load over a greater distance, but the work requires much less lifting force, and that's easier on the back. Wedge. A wedge is a useful device for splitting apart dense objects. A wedge makes use of the inclined plane. By hammering an inclined plane into a dense log, the hardest of logs can be split into smaller sticks. A worker with a wedge and a small hammer can split the mightiest of logs. A wedge works by changing the direction of the force. We apply force to a wedge with the hammer, and the slope of the wedge face pushes the log apart. Pulley. A pulley also makes work easier by changing the direction of force. A pulley attaches a rope or chain to a wheel and axle. By suspending a heavy load from above, a worker pulls down to lift an object up. This allows the object to be moved with less friction. Here's the best part, though. By adding more pulleys, the amount of force required to lift the weight is reduced. In fact, using 2 pulleys to lift an object requires half as much force. 3 pulleys attached to each other takes only 1/3 of the force to lift a load. Of course, there's a trade-off. Adding more pulleys means you have to pull the rope across a greater distance. Using less force to do the same amount of work is called mechanical advantage. Mechanical advantage is calculated as a ratio. A single pulley has an advantage of 1 to 1, no real advantage, while 2 pulleys have an advantage of 1 to 2. Complex machines. Complex machines combine simple machines. Your bicycle, for example, uses wheels and axles and levers, the pedals and brake calipers. A car uses wheels and axles and pulleys to run the components of the engine and lots of nuts and bolts, spiraled inclined planes, to hold everything together. Nearly all of our mechanical work in the modern world is done with the help of complex machines. All right, so now we're finished with our shared read or read aloud together. We are going to look at some of these questions. First, we're going to identify keywords in each one of these questions. We're going to just go over a few of them actually. The author wrote the selection, so most likely to. So I highlighted the words author and wrote because those are keywords. And then most likely to. Our choices are show the reader how historical buildings were constructed, explain how simple machines make work easier, give examples of the different types of force and work, or D, present diagrams that can be useful in designing new simple machines. So this is what we discussed before about author's purpose and why they're writing. So if we are going to look at A, show the reader how historical buildings were constructed, that does not have anything to do with what we read. So we can eliminate that one immediately. Okay. B, explain how simple machines make work easier. They are explaining how simple machines do things, but remember when we thought about the text structure, it wasn't a temporal, you can't see that very well, it wasn't a temporal method or text structure that the author used, was it? And remember that ties right into the author's purpose. It wasn't a explaining how that he did, and that would be, if you're explaining how to do something, that's temporal, and we said that it was descriptive, so that would not be the correct answer choice. Give examples of the different types of force and work. Okay, he did give examples of the different types of force and work, so that could be a maybe. And then the last one is present diagrams that can be useful in designing new simple machines. All right, there were diagrams, but was that what the whole passage was about? No, so we can eliminate that one. So that leaves us with gives examples of the different types of force and work as being our best answer choice. So that's how we would do that. And notice how identifying the text structure helped us understand the author's purpose. And so that's how you tie those two together. And it's very important to identify both of those when reading. All right, so let's take a look at number 3 now. The author informs the reader about simple machines by, okay, so we're going to look at keywords here. We have author informs the reader about simple machines. So we'd want to look back at that part in the passage about simple machines. And the author starts off discussing the simple machines on this side, right? And actually the whole thing is about simple machines until you get to the very last paragraph in paragraph 7, which is complex machines. So remember that organization of how the author of the text is extremely important. Number 3, the author informs the reader about simple machines by A, describing how each type of simple machine saves effort. Okay, I'm looking at this keyword here, describing, and I do know that the text structure is descriptive. The author does describe how each type of simple machine saves effort, so I'm going to put an M by that because it's only the first answer choice that I'm reading, and I don't want to think that the first one I go to is the correct one. B, providing diagrams that teach us how to split logs. Okay, there's only a few diagrams, and even though there's some on there, I know that that's not the entire way that the author does that. C, gives examples of how ancient Egyptians and Excuse me just a second. Giving examples of how ancient Egyptians used simple machines to construct the pyramids. Okay, I know that that can't be right because that was just one part in the first paragraph, so we will eliminate that choice. D, remind readers of the simple machines in their homes. Okay, that was just in one paragraph, one little part of the reading passage, so we know that would be wrong. So again, looking at that text structure and identifying that the text structure was descriptive from the beginning is extremely important in understanding that the author is describing how each type of simple machine saves effort. So the correct answer choice would be A. Okay? So text structure plays a very important part when we're reading this expository text. All right, so let's go to one more. And let's look at 6. The Pulley's diagram, along with the information paragraph 6, help the reader understand that adding more pulleys, so Pulley's diagram is a keyword, along with the information in paragraph 6, help the reader understand that adding more pulleys. Okay, so we did read about that, and we actually included that in our summary. So, changes the load as a possible answer. Okay, adds mechanical advantage, has no mechanical advantage, is not related to distance. All right, so I know we can immediately eliminate H, has no mechanical advantage, because we know that by adding more pulleys that it did help with the force. Is not related to distance, really doesn't have anything to do with what we were discussing. Changes the load. It does change the load. The 3 pulleys diagram, along with the information paragraph 6, help the reader understand that adding more pulleys. So let's go back and reread that part and find text evidence. Here's the best part, though. By adding more pulleys, the amount of force required to lift the weight is reduced. In fact, using 2 pulleys to lift an object requires half as much force. Okay, so let's see. Adding more pulleys means you have to pull the rope across the greater distance. Using less force to do the same amount of work is called, here's that word, mechanical advantage. Mechanical advantage is calculated as a ratio. A single pulley has an advantage of 1 to 1. So it does say that it's mechanical advantage. There's the text evidence. So let's see, for number 6, G, adds mechanical advantage, would be our correct answer because we found the text evidence. We did have to dig for that a little bit, but we found the correct text evidence there. All right, fabulous, boys and girls. So those are the 3 that we wanted to go over. I did want you to make sure that you're looking at those keywords and using the keywords to help you identify the correct answer. All right, so for day 5 tomorrow, you will be successfully reading the star passage and using your strategies to eliminate wrong answer choices. Now that will be a completely different passage. So using the strategies that we've worked on all week, you'll use that to be successful on a completely different star passage. Okay, and then in conclusion, amazing readers read text multiple times. They also use text evidence to identify the central idea, eliminate wrong answers, and summarize what they have read. Why do they do that? So I will become a more fluent reader and have a better understanding of what I have read. All right, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed today's video and that you learned a lot. If you have questions, please reach out to your teachers, and good luck on the puzzle piece. Make sure you're reading aloud and recording yourself as you read the passage so you become a more fluent reader. And if you have questions, again, reach out to your teachers. Have a great day, boys and girls.